Good day, everyone. I must say that Stephanie set an amazing platform and put things in its context and proper perspective, where she spoke about relationships and how the relationships open doors where God would amazingly release and give us the template and the blueprint as to how we should build. And today, our panel discussion is on health and family. And I want the speakers to quickly introduce themselves for just a minute each. And then we'll go with each speaker speaking for 5 minutes, explaining exactly who they are and what they do. Our hope and desire is that God will knit hearts. And as He will knit hearts within the different organizations that are represented here, that they will look at how they could network together and take other initiatives forward. And as Stephanie said about this platform where different resources are coming together and people are meeting for the first time, that this will be that time, this will be that moment where even you sitting there would be quickened in your spirit that God will do something. As you hear the celebration of what God has been doing in isolated pockets. And amazingly, we have not networked, and yet we have done this amazing work in this city. And as God would quicken the response within your hearts, that you would realize that this space is now open for you to build the relationships. Take the initiative, start speaking to each other, and look at how we can take this and springboard this into something more effective and more as a big picture of Durban. So if Graham, you could start and introduce yourself.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Graham Schnell. I'm the CEO of Focus on the Family Africa, and just the 1 minute focus, which reaches about 230 million people in 130 countries, is a global Christian ministry dedicated to helping families thrive. And so at our heart, we provide help and resources for married couples to build healthy, thriving marriages that reflect God's design, and for parents to raise their kids with values that are grounded in biblical principles. But in South Africa particularly, we're spending a lot more time focusing on the youth and building character into the youth and promoting the value of marriage and family to a generation that for the large part is not seeing marriage and family modeled for them. So that's, and we've been in South Africa for 25 years, so we're celebrating 25 years of helping families in Africa this year.
Good morning, everybody. All protocol observed. So many important people here that one would like to acknowledge, but time does not allow. My name is Takalani Dube. I'm a medical doctor by profession, chairperson of Center of Hope, an organization that has been going around for the past 15 years. I see, now, don't do that. I see people that I know, and you want to acknowledge everybody, yeah. So we have been doing work in the community, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, but thank you very much for today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Toby Zondi. I'm a pastor at Durban Community Church. I'm representing an organization we call Strong Families Foundation. It's about 6 years old, and we are also doing some work in the city. Our focus is strengthening families.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Munsami. I've been involved with an organization called Impilo. It has been in existence for 32 years now. In the last 7 years is when I got involved, when I head up all the projects and programs for Impilo. You'll hear more about us in the next couple of minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Graham, if you could tell us exactly how Focus on the Family was birthed and the history of how it's journeying, where it is now, what the hope is for the future.
Sure. I think the starting point is just to say that it is birthed with a desire to spread the gospel of Jesus to as many people as possible. That's what we call our corporate purpose. It's threaded into our vision and our core values. That's what we want to do, is spread the gospel of Jesus to as many people as possible. And we do that through this vehicle of family, and it allows us into or access to places that we're able to get to because of the vehicle of family. But also, we recognize that it is God's, it's on His heart, because we reflect God through family. But also, it doesn't take much to convince anyone that the social ills that we talk about, even at a meeting like this, are often rooted in the breakdown of the family. But the history is a man, Dr. Dobson, who was a pediatric psychologist and saw the breakdown of the family and what it was doing to children, and wanted to do something to stop that, and started writing books and got on radio and started a ministry that's expanded now throughout the world, but really, again, at its heart to provide that vehicle of ministering to people and bringing the love of Jesus through family. And so what we do in South Africa, to get kind of to the practical, we've shared a little bit about the big picture. It's marriage, parenting, and youth, with the core of bringing the gospel. But we do that through a radio. We have radio programs that we supply out to radio stations across the country and continent, and that's our biggest reach. We're able to reach a couple million people every week through that vehicle and through that channel. Just strengthening marriage, strengthening parents, providing them with encouragement and just advice onto how to do family from a biblical perspective. We do seminars around the country, about to do a couple of marriage seminars throughout South Africa with Gary and Bob Rosberg from the States. They come out and speak about cracking the code in marriage, and we do that a few times a year. We've got resources, a couple of resources on stand here that you can come and have a look at, marriage and parenting, all with a biblical foundation. And then we do counseling as well at our office in Hillcrest, but we provide telephonic counseling and email correspondence and have a referral network across the country that we can put people in touch with. But we've also got a community development arm, which is where we're working with where family is broken. So on the one hand, wanting to strengthen family, on the other hand, saying this is broken and how can we get involved? And so we come alongside orphan care points. We've got a number of care points that we work with, and we have orphan care programs. Our model is survive, thrive, and succeed. So survive, basic necessities, food, clothing, water, and then thrive, moving to educational, emotional support. A lot of our programs come in, and then succeed. But for us, succeed is more just than the normal definition of success, being self-sufficient. And it's really, how can I have a successful family life, and not just break the cycle of poverty, but the cycle of orphanhood. And so that's what we want to do. We've got a child-headed home program that we've just launched. We've got a youth program we run in schools, which is an abstinence-based life skill program, but really focused on building character into the lives of kids and giving them a hope for the future and dreams for the future that they can aspire to. And but just I know because of the model of today is a lot about activation. Some ways to get involved. We've got a new program we're just launching called Raising Highly Capable Kids, which is a parenting program. It's a great opportunity for collaboration between church, school, and even business, where we can provide the program, train up facilitators, and where churches have relationships with schools, training up parents based on the Search Institute's 40 developmental assets, where they've proven that the more assets that these kids can have in life, the more successful they'll be. The less that they have, the more they're going to be involved in things like drug and alcohol abuse and all kinds of other social problems. And so we've got this incredible program we'd love to be training more and more facilitators in. So please do come and speak to us about that. Another activation area is our online mentor program, where we're stepping into the digital space and saying we want to train up digital missionaries, not just to respond to where people are coming to us with problems and issues, but where we can find conversations that are happening out there and come alongside and put an arm around them and give them a better word from a biblical perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Graham. I just want to remind us again that this is a resource time, and as we are being more and more exposed to the different resources that are in the house of God, there's the big picture as the bride. Let us look at and respond to what God is doing and how we can tap into this resource. Taki?
Thank you. I'm a preacher, so I'm going to read to try and limit myself. Especially after I've heard so many good things, you tend to want to pick on this because you have experience in this and the other. So let me try and read and see how disciplined I can be today. Founded in 2002, Center of Hope, by my husband and myself. We lead eThekwini Community Church. It is now 15 years old. It is an HIV and total CSI solutions NPO. And having worked in the field of HIV for a number of years, we realized that HIV was a social issue rather than a medical disease so much. And then we started developing holistic approaches to see how we can deal with HIV. Since then, Center of Hope has been involved in various projects in prevention, care, and treatment of HIV. And the most notable and the one that I'm most passionate about is our abstinence walk that has now become a movement. It's called the Gazi movement, that we want to ensure that you participate in and you help us turn into a movement. In the past, we went through all the districts of eThekwini over a period of 10 years. And what we would do is go to schools and go to communities and mobilize young people to choose abstinence as a way of prevention of HIV. At the time, we were focusing mainly on HIV. And then we realized that it connects to all these other things, the drugs, the crime, the teen pregnancy, the broken families, all the things that Steph and Graham have spoken about. And we began to then try to see how we can turn this into a movement of a people who abstain from negative lifestyle impacts, xenophobia, racism. You know, it becomes wide. And so this is the movement that we are now wanting to really make sure that as South Africans, especially because we come from such a fractured and wounded society, where both the leaders and the led are broken and fractured. And that's why, Steph, you will find that your funding ended and then it went to government, because government is still trying to assert itself. Russell, forgive me, as well as our city manager, Mr. Nzuza. The city, you would find that what you start gets taken up by those who have funding but do not know how to do it because it is not theirs in the first place. However, I think I found some healing in what Steph was saying, in that we are a river. And obviously, as a river that supplies, we will always have all these innovations on all these ideas. And I think, like what you're saying, is really for believers to find a space and understand, how do we do kingdom life within an organization, number one, and also try and help teach government not to feel threatened by what we bring, because we are bringing the innovation and the life that is flowing from God, so that government can do what it's called to do. And not by usurping, but by assisting. And we need to find that balance, because they still need that also to try and get points for voters. You know, how do you balance that whole thing? It's a difficult thing. And I think that's what I am seeing in the city story and this initiative that has been started, that I'm feeling very hopeful that we can begin to shake the constraints. I don't have to do parenting if Focus on the Family is doing parenting. It's something that I'm passionate about, and that speaks to the Gazi movement, but my passion is more in the Gazi movement. Let me run with that and allow them to help me with the parenting and this and that and the other. Thank you. So that we can then all begin to do our work. In all the things that God has put in our hearts, there is one that is much more important to us, much more, that I am much more competent in doing, and let me find others who have other things. I'm sure the other speakers, as they speak now, will find the synergies as well. So this is, for me, I do not really want to belabor the abstinence walk. It is known. If you Google, you will find us. And it has run for 12 years. Now let's make it a digital thing. Let's make kids on the web to say, I embrace.
Kiyabonga Fundisi.
Oh, Jesus. Praise the Lord. Gishilo. Gabon. Amen. Just when I'm getting warmed up.
We will come back to you, sister. Toby.
Okay. Okay. Strong Families Foundation, we are an NPO that seeks to advocate for the wellness of the family, and therefore our programs or our focus is in the area of promoting family life and strengthening marriages. It is, of course, birthed out of a church, and therefore we are driven by biblical principles, and our values are very much anchored on the Word of God. And we try to, we are influenced, if I may say like that, we are influenced by the ministry of Christ. And so not only focusing within those in the household of faith, we try to reach out to the world out there with a non-threatening message relating to how individuals can be empowered within a family setup. We believe that if you strengthen the family, you are actually strengthening the community. And we believe it's important, therefore, that individuals within a family setup be empowered with information, be given skills, and be assisted to live their best within their family setup, and in the process will be strengthening families. So our values or our objective is really to nurture families, to promote and enrich marriages, strengthen parenting. We also run parenting programs, and also to build strong relations within individuals in families. So some of our programs will include girl and boys talk, where we have time with young men and young girls or ladies, and we talk about matters that will empower them in terms of making decisions for their life, informed decisions regarding the heart matters, relationships, head matters, hands, as well as, what's the other H? The health matters, yes. And we also run premarital seminars wherein we invite individuals far and wide out of the church and within the church. And through that program, we just empower people as to areas that they could look into before they get into marriage, explain what marriage is all about. The whole aim is to ensure that those who enter the institution of marriage, they learn to love it and stay within the institution. We strongly believe in marriage, and we have seen through that program, we have been graced enough to really disciple people who are not even of the Christian faith, and we love what we're seeing there. We run workshops and from time to time, and then we also have couples who join us who come requiring marital counseling and even to be assisted getting married. We would run also couples retreats as a means of enriching marriages. We have couples even out of the church, like we've mentioned, and for us the important thing there is to make sure that those who are in the institution of marriage, they actually make it work and they love being there in their marriages. We run programs where we work with about 30 old age institutions in the city, mainly from rural areas and the townships. We work with those old age institutions just to celebrate the elderly people. With the breakdown of the family, quite a number of families are led by the elderly people, and we feel if we are unable to empower them in their age, we allow them to speak into our lives, but more than that, we just make a space for them to just come and be celebrated. Just come and have a time where they can forget about the issues that they have to deal with in their families. And really, most of them have issues, like serious issues. But for them to come and be in a kind of a party environment where they can enjoy themselves, it actually refreshes them to go back home and really look forward to doing what they do in their homes as they help their young family, or not family, their young, yes, family. Thank you. And the last program that we engage in is a community program. We call it Untatile, meaning he has loved us, meaning Christ has loved us. Within that program, we support families with spiritual counseling, encouragement, income generating programs, and actually support some school kids when they go to school, sometimes with food parcels and uniforms and things like that. So, yep. Strong
Thank you very
family
much, Pastor. We noticed that there's such diverse value that each of these initiatives are bringing to the city. And I want to reiterate, let's listen to what God is saying and how He's going to be consolidating those different gifts. Because I sense it is a time where we look at the diverse gifts that are in the house, and we also look at the resources that are in the house. And as we then knit hearts and network, then we're going to see the bigger picture of what God's desire is for the city unfold. Aaron?
Well, we at Impilo, we're about changing the hearts of our communities. That's what we're all about. In the last 32 years, it has been vast and wide, but in the last 7 years, we became more focused. We've been working more so on the north of Durban. We've been setting up centers that kind of helped us to kind of perfect what we do. We look at different areas where there's need, we research, we look at the stats, we do all of those homework, and then we base our project on the needs of the area. For example, how do we go about changing the hearts of our communities? We work within 8 facets within Impilo. I think you know Impilo means life, right? So what we do is we kind of get into these facets, and one of the facets that we thrive on is education. How do we go about doing this? We kind of set up libraries. Right now, we in Waterloo, there's a library that has been set up there. There's 8,000 houses, low-cost houses in that area. There's about 42 to about 48,000 people in that area. So we have set up a center there. Within that center, we do extra tuitions. We get people to read, as we find reading to be something that is lacking very much in our societies. So we engage people to read. We have computers there that we kind of get people to get computer literate and so forth. So that's what we do in terms of education in that area. Whilst in other areas like in Amauti and so on, we kind of work with schools where we locate the underprivileged children, and I think we target each year about 100. And then we take them and we buy them these stationery, and we get them uniforms, and we try and make life easier for them so that they can go to school and really be part of that society. So that's what we do in schools, and then we also do, to a large extent, we do feedings in some of these schools, which happens on a continuous basis. And then also we try and take these children out to, various education facilities, and we try different ways and means of seeing how we can educate them. Of late, we've been using teachers that are in our churches, educators, and we were getting them to spend time in the afternoons giving extra lessons to these learners. And that has really done well for us, where we've seen a turnaround in their symbols as well. And now, instead of a 30-40% rate, a pass rate, now we're seeing more like 66%, and that's really has been a tremendous achievement on our side. But because of time, how much of time? Okay, that's on the educate facet. The other interesting thing that we do is called the Medicare facility, or the healthcare of Impilo. There we kind of bring in all Christian doctors. Well, that's our first tier. Now that we see so many doctors here, you can be assured we'll be calling on you. And it's about us complementing and supplementing each other. But we get these doctors come and they offer their services. We work with local government, and one of the things that we do, Russell, is we kind of look at all the places that they fail, and we kind of get in and see how we can assist them. In this year, we realized that they were lacking in pap smears. The Department of Health weren't getting the numbers that was required, and I think you will know that women have to be tested. They have to go through pap smears at least once a year. So what we do is we kind of set up facilities that will help do this. So we focus on pap smears, we focus on circumcision, and we focus on the HIV and AIDS. So that has become a kind of a routine that we do a couple of every month. We find an area, we take doctors there, we get nurses together, we even go to the extent of providing medication for them. And that has been very successful.
Thanks.
Sure. He told me I had time, right?
Sorry,
Man.
Sorry, guys. Sometimes I say things and I find that it just goes beyond me.
Sure. This is not fair, right?
Now that we are a bit more relaxed in the house, I want us to take this to another depth, another level, to sense what God is actually doing in this space. So that after we've had these lovely deliberations and we've shared our hearts as to respectively what each organization does, let us hear what God is saying, so that we go away more informed and more purposely focused. So I want to go back to you, Taki. So maybe just share what you're sensing God is doing here that can bring value to this collective and also to those who are listening, so that this time could be a time of hearing and then responding, so that there's action after this.
Thanks. I feel that there is a lot of maturity that's coming through. A lot of us who have been in the NGO sector will know that you hustle for that funding. And we tend sometimes to abandon what God has put initially in our hearts to pursue where the funding is going. And you can hear from the speakers and that each one of us has a niche. And then that niche obviously then coalesces with the other things that other people are doing, because it's all a social and spiritual issue. So as we begin to coalesce, you find that when you do everything, you become thinly spread. You go into burnout, you go into fund drain and all that jazz. When somebody decides we're no longer funding this and that's it, that's gone. But if we begin to recognize, I really like what Stephanie said, we are the river that's flowing. and we unencumber ourselves of that weight of trying to do everything, and then allowing ourselves to do that which we have a niche in, and then network with those who have other niches, and each niche begins to feed onto that. And then we have enough resources outside of government and outside of international help. We have enough resources amongst ourselves to say, all of us will give 10 rands towards Gazi, okay? And then Gazi can become provincial. All of us will give the other 10 rands to focus on the family, then they will be provincial. And then the other 10 rands will go to strong families, the other 10 rands will go to Impilo, and many other initiatives, as long as we are taking a niche out of each one of them, and then they focus on that without the fear of, I am leaving out the other important things because I know they're taken care of. And that's what I really feel God is saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very valid point, because I picked up what Stephanie said. And that's the reality when you're working with NGOs that are they dictate to you because they hold the funds, and that's the whole secular humanist agenda. And they want to do honorable things, so they start networking with churches, and the finances are released, but then they dictate as to how you should actually structure your program. And there's freedom when we hear what God is saying, and we know that the resource is always in the house. So I sense God, if he's bringing hearts together and networking and bringing us to that spacious place of how we can deliver on what we hear him. And in delivering, we actually bring evidence of the kingdom, and then we know that the governments will call us in because they desire to see the evidence of what we bring, but they do not know how to do it. So we must probably think about that, guys, and look at how this whole process can actually evolve into something bigger and in line with what God is doing. Graham, do you want to say anything at all?
No, I think I would just say well done to the organizers for birthing this initiative. It's fantastic. So nothing to add, but to just say well done, an incredible initiative.
Toby, yeah?
Okay. I'm just encouraged, as we see it sharing our stories, and I'm sure many other people have got their own stories. You watch TV, you read the newspaper, you listen to anything going on around, you would really be discouraged, thinking there's really all bad, and we are dying, we are going down, and all of that. But really, when you listen to stories that people are sharing, you actually realize that God is at work. And he is seriously doing something big. Amen. It brings to life the scripture that says we are lively stones and we are used, to build up a spiritual house. And even if it doesn't feel like we are doing that, even if it doesn't feel like whatever you are doing in your own small Inyana corner is making any difference, but really God is at work, and that alone is very exciting. We may not, So we may not necessarily feel like we are making a strong move, but God is at work, and there is something that the Church of Jesus Christ is really pushing through, and it's going to come through, and we are going to see its results. Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us remember to celebrate, and if we can look at how to make what we are doing known more, so that it's a testimony, it's actually a witness, it motivates, it spurs, it brings hope, it brings a sense of anticipation and restoration, which I guess our people need to hear, we need to hear. And maybe we should look at how we could do that more. Aaron, we can start from where we stopped.
Well, I think we're living in very exciting times. Whilst people might be moaning and groaning about the state of our country and so on, I just feel that we're living in such exciting times where we see the church coming together in so many different forms. And even this event here today, just to see, 17 organizations coming together I think what we need to do is to see how we can complement each other and find a way of not only complementing each other, but supplementing each other. And we need to understand that we cannot do it on our own. We all have exciting stories. If you come to our table there, we'll tell you some exciting stories. But we're not going to be able to change overnight. But together we can make it work. And I'm just listening to the stories and just the other day speaking to others. But there's so much happening in Durban. And it's amazing, it's overwhelming. And really, I think God has more surprises for us. And we just need to be open to Him and hear what He's saying. But let's not forget what happened today. So when we go out there now, let's see how we can get our acts together and let's see how we can work together.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Robin, it's super magondovious. It's super magondovious. That means it's awesomest.
Thank you very much. What I want to say is, when we at recess, network amongst yourselves and with the panel so that something positive can come out of this. Thank you very much.